Let's keep our discussion about cohesive devices and how in an intensive reading program we can take the benefit, or or intensive reading program can be a good opportunity to teach cohesive devices. So if you remember, in our previous module we talked about Halliday and Hassan cohesion in English. So that's good source book which you can use to understand the purpose of cohesive devices. So let's have a look at some other forms of cohesive devices which we can teach through reading intensive reading program. Right. Well, another form is ellipses. Ellipses are when something necessary is left unsaid, and this usually occurs in a spoken discourse, but sometimes it takes place in a written discourse as well. So in order to teach ellipses, we can bring in some exercises which help students recover from previous part of the passage, or exercises which help students make sense of the sentences by giving them regular practice. So this sort of practice can take the form of question as well. Right. So ellipses is all about what's missing from the sentence. So instead of teaching them what ellipses are, what are their rules, and how we can make our students to make sense actually what ellipses imply in a working text in their use actually. So there is another cohesive device which is called comparison. Halliday and Hassan include this category of cohesive devices within the category of reference words, for example, substitution or ellipses. But comparison, we've got some key words when we talk about comparison and how we can teach them to our students through intensive reading. So we've got same, similar, identical, other, additional, else, likewise, so, more, fewer, less. So in order to teach such a comparison or comparative devices of comparison and contrast, instead of teaching them the rules of comparative devices, we can bring in a passage which contains these cohesive devices, and these devices, students can be asked to look for such words which give the sense of comparison, right? So in this way, students will be feeling more engaged and involved in the reading activity, and their understanding of such comparative devices will be enhanced. So this helps such sort of technique actually. It helps students see what's being compared in the text and in what way. If we teach them the comparative devices in their isolated form, or that may not make meaningful sense to the students. So the word here, the key word is the meaningful sense. Then another form of is conjunction relationship, which can be but, in spite of. So they actually are used to give a connection, give a connection in the sentence to see how ideas in the passage are related to each other. So we can use that's not something very hard and fast. These are just the ideas, the examples which we can use to teach cohesive devices. And the use of cohesive devices in such a way will give meaningful input to the student, and they will be more able to become skilled readers. And this skill, we can just bear in mind, we can inculcate through teaching intensive reading.